Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Aftershocks of After Loss. I am Rachel Donnelly with Black Dress Consultants and am super excited today to be back. Took a little bit of a break to refresh and recharge, but hey, hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Or also
I'm
good
great.
afternoon in the ATL. So
That's right. It's still morning in Chi-Town.
I know. Well, awesome. Well, I was just, introducing myself and just t telling everybody I took a little bit of a break in July to go on vacay and rest and recharge, but I'm back and so back at it with you, and I'm so psyched to have you today.
Well, thanks, Rachel. I'm really happy to be with you today.
Yeah, so why don't you introduce yourself? Because I think you're a better person than me to do that.
Well, I'll take you up on that offer. So my name is Corinne Heggie. I'm a principal of the Walkner Law Firm, and we're located just north of Chicago for all of those Midwesterners out there.
Yes,
And
representing. Yeah.
exactly. And our focus is on protecting families, individuals from asset loss, court battles, and taxes using wills, trusts, and powers of attorney. So that's estate planning.
Yes, that is. And I think people get, and I love the name of your handle, Estates Made Easy, Illinois,
Hmm.
because people get so completely overwhelmed by the thought of estate planning, the whole just the word, and it can be a little, you know, confusing. And so that's what we're here today to sort of tackle some of the misconceptions, demystify it maybe a little bit, and break it down, and make it easy. So that's why I love the name of your account, because we're going to break it down and we're going to make it easy. Um, Especially since over the last year, I mean, I'm sure you have ridden that wave of the past year and sort of the surge in estate planning. So why don't we sort of start there, and like, what has it been like as an estate planning attorney over the past, 17 months or whatever we are into COVID now?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been busy,
Yeah.
um, and we think that's good. And it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be with our office, though we would love to be your partner.
Hmm.
The reality of the pandemic r- really kicked a lot of people in the seat and got them
Yeah.
to sit up straight and think
Yeah.
about, what am I going to do if I need help and I can't get to people, I can't get to banks, and no one can act for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
If, you know, from the beginning, it was more the people who were unable to do things for themselves because they were quarantining,
Yeah.
or they had contracted the virus and were meeting varying degrees of symptoms.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. And somebody said the other day, and I'm sort of in what we call the death care industry. And someone said, death is having a moment. And it sounds kind of strange, and a little off-putting, but it's true. And it's a good thing, I think,
Yeah.
that it has had a moment. However, despite that, despite the surge in your business and you probably being so insanely the past year, 60%, over 60% of Americans still don't have a will.
Oh yeah, that's a stunning statistic, really. Just
Why?
given,
Why? I mean, like, I know I could sit here and get up on my soapbox about it, and like, what, in breaking that down, but what does Corinne say? Like, what is the reasons for that?
I think there's two main reasons. The first being, you know, fear of the unknown,
Hmm.
whether that being what the process looks like or grappling with one's own mortality.
Right.
I think the second is, a lot of people think, I don't need an estate plan.
Yes. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, we've already unpacked like one tenet of that. Let's break that down, because I want to just go bananas when somebody says, I don't need an estate plan. And I'm sure you do too. So if you could break it down in a couple of steps, why does everybody need an estate plan?
Everyone needs an estate plan because you need to have people, trusted people, adults that can help you if you're living and you can't make medical decisions for yourself or make decisions about your property.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you also need a will, even if you believe you don't own anything, or which I suspect is probably not the case for most people.
Right.
So there is no confusion about
Right.
where your property goes when you're no longer with us.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my best friends, she was talking with her aunt and uncle a couple of weeks ago. She visited them for the first time, I think, since COVID, now that everybody was vaccinated. And she recently lost her father, and she was talking to them about how they were redoing her mom's estate plan now that her mom was a widow. And her aunt and uncle said, well, our kids are smart. They'll figure it out. We don't need a will. And she came to me and she's like, Rachel, what should I say to them? And number one, I just, about fell on the floor. But what would you say to somebody like that? Because they have $1 million house. They have 3 kids. They have grandchildren. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I'm happy that this person has such confidence in their children, and that confidence may be very well placed.
Yes, I'm sure they're amazing.
But you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know where your children are going to be.
Yeah.
And take a little time now to remove uncertainty in a situation that, is going to be emotionally charged. And what emotions come into that, play into the situation, are going to depend on the family, depend on the spouse, depend on assets, depend on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much uncertainty in life. So much.
Yeah.
I mean, the pandemic was a prime example of that. Take the time.
Yeah.
And get a partner that you trust, a estate planning lawyer you trust, or firm you trust, and take the time. It won't take nearly as much time as you think.
Yeah.
And remove uncertainty.
Yeah. I mean, my husband and I just redid our estate plan this year for the second time. And it was great because it's, I think people think, oh, I have a will, one and done. It is a living document.
Agreed.
It's a process, and it took just a couple of weeks. It was so much, faster than I think I remember the last time, but I feel so much better now. Like I feel such a relief. No, and I'm in this world every day. I've been an executor twice, so I'm a little bit, different than the average person, but it's such a relief to know that, hey, I know who the guardian will be for my kids, that who will take care of the money. It's such a relief. And I want to share that relief with others and be like, go get it done. Go, just do it.
Yeah. I think, Rachel, the sentiment you're describing right now is what we see and hear from people who, either if they're taking that initial step to document a plan, or if they're revisiting their documents because, life happens, life changes, assets change, family change. It's a sense of peace of mind, and relief. It's like, okay, done.
I can breathe. Yeah,
People start breathing. The temperature comes down.
Yeah.
And you have to see it to believe it. I mean, it's what happens.
And just because you go and get your estate plan done doesn't mean that you're guaranteeing you're going to die tomorrow. I think that's another reason. People are like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to pretend this isn't happening.
Right.
And that's another one.
And so to people like that, I mean, I would like them, this is an invitation for them to think about estate planning as wellness.
Yeah.
You see your doctor. If your spouse, a family member, a child is sick, you don't say, we got it.
Yeah. I'm good.
You take steps to try and remedy or provide support for the situation. And you try to eat well, you take a vitamin, you try and move your body.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
wellness piece. It's a holistic approach to looking at your property and what
Yeah.
you own. Because
I
even if
love
you
that.
think you don't own property,
You
I,
do.
I you do.
Yeah.
Might not be a
Yeah.
lot, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You worked for it. You worked hard for
Yeah.
it, or it was something you inherited, or it was a gift from
Hmm.
a friend, a loved one, a family member.
Yeah.
Protect it so you get to say
Exactly.
where it goes, not a judge or
Well, and to save your family that trouble. And you and I have talked about this, a lot is, end of life planning, estate planning is the greatest gift you can give your family. And I know that my friend's aunt and uncle, they aren't meaning to put that burden on their kids. And I think if
no.
if they were able to look on the other side and see the anguish that their kids will go through after they're gone, of having to go to probate court, find an attorney, pull all these pieces together, they'd be like, oh my gosh, I really wish I hadn't put that on my kids.
I agree. I think most people don't want to do that. And it's so much can be done with,
Yeah.
a will, and then taking a look at your property, getting a handle on how you own it, and then planning, be it with a
Yeah.
trust or with, beneficiary designations,
Hmm.
about where it goes when you're not able to use it and enjoy it.
Yes, exactly. I love that. So, I mean, so many questions to ask you. I think you and I could sit here and talk just all day about all things estate planning because it's one of my favorite topics. But um, if my question is, what do you think about these online will writing platforms where you can go, is it better than nothing? Or like, what are your thoughts? Because I'm seeing so many of them pop up these days. Like, what are
Yeah.
the pros and the cons of those?
Well, I'm going to start with the pro, and I like that they're out there because
Yeah.
people can get information. It's making this kind of knowledge and information about this process or this topic accessible, and I think that's
Right.
always a good thing.
Yeah.
I do. I just think that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
The caveat is that you have to make sure that the documents satisfy the laws of the state in which you reside, and
Mm,
to the extent you have a dual residency, what that looks like for both
right.
states. So
Right.
it's the dotting the i's and crossing the t's. And if I've heard and I found, I mean, I talked to someone yesterday who has a lot of business interests with a franchisor, and
Oh
they just
gosh, yeah.
they had started with LegalZoom and got some advice that just didn't sound right. And I was like, you don't have to change your estate plan every time you receive a new franchise. You just have to understand that's your property and then figure out how you're going to protect it
Right.
within the
Right.
confines of your estate plan.
Right.
So I think sometimes there can be just misinformation, and it's not because anyone's trying to mislead someone. It's just the devil's in the details, and estate law
Yes.
is something to really not overlook.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then, and like you said, I think education is power. I think knowledge is power. I think those platforms and mechanisms being out there are good. However, like you said, there are so many times where the devil is in the details. And if you don't have a real live human being looking and looking at that broad brush, there are things, your odds are you're probably going to miss and are probably going to be a problem after you're gone.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I think partnering with a lawyer, and I'm gonna most firms, and if they don't, you should ask, we'll give you a free consultation.
Okay. So,
Usually up to an hour. I mean, I know we
okay.
do, and we're pretty generous with that hour.
Yeah.
Now, listen, they might ask you to meet them halfway and give them some information about the property you own and how you own it. You know, listen, if they ask, they won't ask, we don't ask for account numbers. We just ask, some questions so we can get an
Yeah.
idea, because then
Yeah.
that allows us to kind of get a discussion and get a potential client thinking about, okay, so this is the property. How do you want to protect it? Do you have specific things you do or don't want to do with this?
Right. Right.
So I empower people to, look for an estate planning lawyer who gives a free consultation. And also, if the firm you would like to partner with doesn't give that option, I would just ask, what's the worst they can say? No.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a great, I'm glad you sort of led into this, because I think that's one of the biggest, can be one of the challenges that people have in executing an estate plan, is just finding that estate planning attorney to begin with, and finding the one that meets and fits their personality and their needs. And so I love that you're encouraging people, to, hey, just ask questions. Like, ask, do you give the free consultation? Do you, what are some other questions that you would recommend that you would want people to ask you when they're looking to find the perfect estate planning attorney for them?
Yeah, I'd love to answer that question. So again, you're going to ask and see if there's a free consultation.
Okay.
I think it's also useful to see, take a look at the website and see if there's the bench doesn't have to be 20 deep, but there's other people, so that if you were in a jam and, Corinne, who might have helped you draft the plan and sign the plan, isn't available, does she have colleagues that could be a resource to you? I know at our
Okay.
firm, it's very much a team effort. If no one is just one person's client. You're a client of the firm, and we're here to help you. So I would check on the bench, or just make sure that there's, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be another lawyer. I mean, a really
Yeah.
great paralegal or a really great
Yes. I
administrative
love
team
that. That's a
member.
great tip. That's a really great tip.
And then see if they have the ability to, do you explain these documents?
Right.
Do we have an opportunity as part of the fee that we work with you, be it hourly or flat fee, whatever the firm's protocol is, do we get the opportunity to review the plan, and how does it work?
Right. Yeah. I love that. Those are great, great suggestions. And
Yeah.
it may not be the first person that you come into contact with.
Oh,
It,
right.
yeah. And I'm sure you have situations where you're like, client A, you will be better suited working with this person. Like,
Yes.
we're not always the right fit for each other. So,
Right. Right. And that's fine too, because it takes all kinds of people to
yeah,
make this world in which we're lucky to live go round.
absolutely. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I think those are the top three questions I would invite people to think about when they're looking to partner with, a lawyer for estate planning.
I love that. Those are great, great suggestions. So, look around, ask some candid questions, and find that right person. Um, okay, so next up, let's talk about some other, not more complicated, but some of the other levels of estate planning. We're going to talk about the really sexy word trusts, which I'm sure comes up a lot. So I know I was talking to you about this, but there's a great quote from Susie Orman. And so at August, I was just reading, is National Get a Will Month or Write a Will Month. I forgot the exact words. But so a lot of people think, okay, you've gotten a will, that's great. Bravo, kudos, you get an A plus. However, you're not done. Okay?
Right.
You're not done. So everyone thinks they just need a will, but that will be the biggest mistake they ever make. That is a direct quote from Susie Orman. What do you think she means by that? How would you dissect that? And how does that lead to the other areas of estate planning that you help clients with?
That's a great question. And so what I would speculate is that a will is something that tells the world when you're not here, right? No one's looking for your will until you're dead,
Right.
to be candid about it,
Yeah.
where your solely owned property goes.
Right.
However, I think you're not protected because you have to make sure that your property, how you own your property, have you named as beneficiaries, or do you have a trust where you could write some more specific rules of the road?
Right.
And a will doesn't help you if you are living and incapacitated.
Yes.
A will
Yes.
does not help you with incapacity. And listen, for the listeners out there who are with us, who are young and healthy, very hard to move
Yeah.
into that space where you're envisioning yourself unable to talk to your doctors, unable to go to the bank,
I
unable
know.
to direct automatic deposits.
That's a really hard thing to think about, and I get it.
It's really hard, but
Yeah.
you need powers of attorney so you are not flat-footed if you find yourself in a situation where you're living and incapacitated.
Yeah.
So I think that perhaps if you take a wider view, my thought would be a will, that's great. You got to do it. It helps with a
Yes.
lot. It's a big
Boom.
lift.
Yeah.
Kudos that you've done
Yeah.
it. But do you have powers of attorney? So you've got a trusted agent and a backup if that first agent can't
Hmm.
help, to help you make medical decisions if you need a hand there, or
Yeah.
to help you manage your property if you need a hand there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have to believe that, uh, the quote or the reflection also speaks to, ask some questions about a trust and see if trust planning is a good fit for you.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we just redid our estate plan, as I mentioned, and one of my biggest goals was, my God, if my kids can avoid the hell that is probate, tell me how to sign up and where to say to sign. So
Yeah.
we created a revocable living trust. And those are so many words, and people are like, their brains are just freaking out, and they're like, what does that mean? So if you were to explain it like to a fourth grader, how would you explain it to the average person?
So to the average person, I would explain a living trust, which is just a changeable trust, an amendable trust, a revocable trust, which simply means it can be changed as your life changes. I'd liken it to a box.
Okay.
A
Okay.
trust is a box. Now,
Okay.
your box isn't built until you sign it.
True. True.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
So you build your box, and then after you build your box, you fill your box with your property.
Okay. I love it. That is a great analogy. I love that.
For those legal eagles on the phone, I mean, what is a trust? Ultimately, a living trust. It's a contract you're making with yourself to
Okay.
provide for yourself while you're living, give some direction for how to provide for you with your trust assets if you're living and can't manage them yourself. And then when you're no longer living, where does your trust wealth go? Who
Right.
benefits? Who are your
Okay.
beneficiaries? And
Okay.
trusts in Illinois are not filed into the court record. They do not need to be registered with the Secretary of State. So why is that important? It means they're private.
Ooh, okay.
Okay?
That's a great distinction. I've
They're
never thought about
private.
that.
No one, who knows what's in that document? You and anyone else that you'd like to let them know.
Okay. That's
In
a
Illinois, wills have to be filed into the public record in the county in which the person dies.
Oh,
So now,
okay.
so now listen, who's going to look for your will?
Yeah.
Someone who's got a beef with what decisions you made, or maybe has a beef with the person who you've named as executor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, can they get a copy? Sure, fine.
Yeah.
You can go get it out of the public record. You make a request at the clerk's office and do it. But your trust is not filed and will never see the light of day, in a court proceeding, unless you have a beneficiary who is truly upset and a
Yeah.
lawyer has told that person they have grounds to sue the trustee
Yeah.
and has money to pay the lawyer. Does it happen? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a very high hurdle. So
Yeah.
trusts, I'm very comfortable saying, are private.
Yeah. I love that. That's a really good thing to think through and to think about and to consider. Now, is there sort of a box that people check and you're like, oh, a trust is a good fit for you, not a good fit for you? Or is it just very fluid and really depends?
It really kind of depends, but
Okay.
I think at least we found that if you own real estate or own multiple pieces of real estate, a trust is great because real estate can be put in that trust, and then the trust is saves the property from probate and
Mm,
allows the owners,
mm-hmm.
or if you're a part owner, what you want to happen with your ownership rights in that property,
Yeah.
because real estate can be a tricky wicket.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I
My
mean, a
same,
really tricky wicket. I mean, a lot of probates get open, at least in this office, because that one piece of real estate was the joint tenant died and the
yeah.
survivor did nothing to protect it.
Yeah. So, what would you say to a woman who she's now widowed, she has 3 kids, and she puts in her will that she wants to leave her home to all 3 of her kids? Like, what are some of the big like problems that might happen with that? And then what are some ways that you would counsel a client, say like, hey, we need to make some changes to make sure that this is going to go more seamless.
Right. Well, so if the person was very, I mean, resistant to doing a trust, and there's people like that, and
Yeah.
so we meet our clients where they are on their
Yeah.
estate planning, continuum on their, on their path to getting an estate plan. So
Yeah.
in Illinois, I would counsel that individual to make sure you've got a transfer on death instrument on
Okay.
record with the recorder's office that aligns with what you said in your will.
Right.
I, mother, or name, leave
Right.
this property in 3 equal shares to the following people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the catch. What if one of the children predeceases you?
Yes. Okay. Right.
There's some, and then the thought was, oh well, if my daughter or my son predeceases me, oh, their share will go to their children. Well, eventually maybe, but then how old are those grandchildren? Can they inherit a share of real estate?
Right.
Because if they're not the age of majority, there's some, legal realities that come with that.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's for the person who's a little anxious or hesitant to sign a trust.
Okay.
If you sign a trust, I mean, the will really becomes very vanilla.
Yeah.
And so the trust would say, if I own, this property in my name when I die, I want it. I instruct the trustee to execute a deed in favor of my 3 children if they are living. However, if they, if one of them predeceases me,
Right.
the
Right.
survivors share, or, you can do all kinds of things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So lot more options.
Just
Um,
flexibility and
Flexibility,
control.
what ifs. Yeah. Okay. I love that. That's a great idea. And like you said, some people are trust hesitant and they're like, oh, that's not for me, or that's, like you said, they're just wary of it. So, but I think, like you said, just talking through some of the what ifs will help them come to
Yeah,
a better decision.
agreed. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we do here. And, there's a lot of people and we also, you can do a lot of good work. If you're a young family and your wealth is growing and you're busy, you got to name the guardians for the children. In Illinois, that's what you do in the will. Make sure each of you are each other's beneficiaries. Make
Yeah.
sure you've got backups. You pay on death, and you can
Mhm.
do a lot of great work with a will.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then as your wealth grows, as life changes, then maybe a trust is something you need in 5 or 10 years down the
Okay.
road.
Okay. So not something that you got to do right now, but like we said, it's not a one and done. Maybe we
Right.
revisit in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Um, so I know you were talking about And if you're just joining us or you've been with us, I'm so excited. We're putting the fun in estate planning today. We're debunking some myths, talking through some misconceptions, but I'm with Corinne Heggie of she's a principal with the Walkner Law Firm it's north of Chicago, and I'm in Atlanta, and I'm so glad you and I've connected. Well, I think we connected, where all friendships happen today on Instagram. So,
Yes.
uh, so
And thank
glad.
you. I just want to say thank you to you for the resource you provide, because a lot of times, lawyers, for whatever, the reality is lawyers don't maybe enjoy a great reputation, you know, and I
Yeah.
won't say why or, expound on that. But it's nice that your services with Black Dress Consulting can be a maybe a shallower point of entry, a great point of
Yes.
entry for people to kind of get their hands around their role if they're the executor, their role of the
Yes.
trustee, or their role, having these discussions with family members who they care about and want to come along on this, giving some thought to what happens when you're not here. And so
Yes.
I think that is such a wonderful resource and a powerful resource
Yes.
that you offer your community and the people who need this, which is probably almost everyone.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. And that's the whole reason I created this business, is because I've now been an executor twice. Unfortunately, it is not a glamorous job to anybody out there who thinks it's fun. It's an enormous responsibility, and it's a legal responsibility, and it's a lot of work. Um, and so that's why, like I said, I created this to work in collaboration and concert with attorneys to help, their clients do the things. So, let's talk about that. Like, when someone's trying to decide who to name an executor or who to name as the executor of the estate, like, what are some of the recommendations, the tips that you give them to think through that?
Sure. Well, the first thing, and if you partner with a lawyer, they'll have a handle on this, him, her, or the firm. What are the state's requirements?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
In Illinois, you can't be a felon. You must be at least 18. You must have legal capacity. Okay. And you must be a U.S. resident. Okay. So
Okay.
once the legal, whatever your state requires, then you got to think about, okay, who if I called tomorrow would say yes?
Yeah.
Okay, now
Yeah.
your lawyer is not going to know that answer. You
Right.
will.
Yes.
Okay. And are there two people? I know in Illinois you can have co-executors.
Right.
Okay, so do you want two? Do you want one? Think about that. And then you have to really have that first discussion with yourself. What kind of property do you own? And so what
Yes.
would this person be asked to do? Is it something where it's, going to a bank, making sure the beneficiaries for pay on death are honored, getting this notifying social security number and making sure the death certificate is correct,
Right.
and transferring title of a vehicle? Or, is your executor going to be working with a trustee because you have a trust?
Yeah.
What does that look like? I mean, I think you don't have to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a Harvard grad to do it, but just practically, what are the skill sets, very basic skill sets,
Yes.
this person would need?
Yes.
And
And
and I think I also, it's someone, if I might add, someone who's willing to say, I might need some help. And it doesn't have to
yes.
be from a lawyer, it doesn't have to
No.
be from someone like you, but hey, at the bank, hi,
Yes.
I need some help.
Yes. Exactly.
Here's the will, here's the death certificate, here's my license.
Right.
May you please help me?
Yes. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that executors maybe don't know, is they can hire help. They can
Right.
ask for help above and beyond the attorney, the accountant, the what have you, to help them do the things, to help them fulfill their duties, carry out the responsibilities. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, they probably still have their own lives, their own families, and they sometimes you just need to outsource some things and to call in some reinforcements. So you can totally do
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Most estate plans will provide that the executor or executors are not responsible for the costs of the administration, including any help from an attorney
Yeah.
or legal or any professional. I'm not just saying attorney, accountant,
Right.
whatever. I mean,
Right. Right.
those are things that assets of the deceased would account for before money is distributed to, or beneficiaries are
Yes.
accounted for.
Yes. Now, one thing that I'm working with clients, you know, in their end of life plans, when they are working with an attorney or they're not yet, and I want to connect them with professionals, is helping them look through their digital estates,
Yeah.
and all the accounts that are out there and their digital assets and their, the hard drives and the computers and the iPads and all of those things. And one thing that I'm recommending is that they look at writing out a letter of instructions with detailed, like instructions of what they want to happen to those accounts, but sometimes naming, a digital executor, someone that may be different than their original executor, who's maybe a little bit more computer savvy or
Yeah.
digital, no, like, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I think that goes back to what kind of property, how do you run, how do you operate your
Yeah,
daily
yeah,
life, your investments, your property, whatever you own.
yeah,
And it's very important to make sure that you have at least a list of the property. And listen, it doesn't have to be a fancy spreadsheet. I mean,
right. Yes,
take it to pen and paper if that's if
yes,
that if that
yes,
is better for you. Where's
yeah,
your property? How, do you do online banking? If
mm-hmm.
yes, what are the passwords?
Yes,
If no, where's the checkbook?
yes,
I
yeah,
think a list can be so powerful, and to the extent you have passwords, I know those can sometimes change, but if you've written down your passwords, a lot of times we found that if executors or even individuals who are helping someone who's living under a property power of attorney have
mm-hmm.
like an old password, that gives them when they're trying, because powers of attorney in our office, we build in that digital asset piece and
Okay,
allow them for password protection, password
right,
assistance. If you can
right,
demonstrate this is a prior password, that does help, get access if someone's doing
right,
online banking. So if
yeah,
you have an online profile, you do online banking, you've got digital accounts and a profile on social media, maybe your executor should be someone who can, you know, and
do the
those are
yeah, the
to
two
button those
factor,
up.
yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly. And it may not be, Aunt Millie who, only has, an old Hotmail account and doesn't really
Yeah.
understand all those things.
Right. I
But
mean, and it doesn't have to be someone who's 18, but I
yeah,
think it's also someone who is maybe your contemporary or a little bit younger just because of
yeah,
lifespan issues that
yeah,
are, regardless of whomever. I know people are living longer, healthier lives, but
they are, God willing. Yeah. So I know you mentioned when we talked earlier that the five things that you can do, not maybe today or right now, but in the immediate, to get better prepared. What are some or all of those five things that you counsel to clients?
sure. So the first thing is get an idea of your property and how you own it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's your real estate.
One,
And
right?
even if you don't own your condo, fine. I rent my apartment. My rent is this.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Okay.
you own the property, I don't care if you've got a mortgage on it. How do you own it? Who's on the deed? How do you own your IRA or 401k? Probably in your own
Mm-hmm.
name. I suspect
Yeah.
in your own name, unless it's,
Right.
it's in your own name. Life insurance. Do you have it through your employer? If you have
Mm.
it through your employer, it's still yours while you're employed.
Yes.
Okay. So get a list of your property and how
Yeah.
you own it.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was reading the other day how much life insurance goes unclaimed every
Oh,
year.
it's
It's
stunning.
it is. It's really sort of nauseating to learn the millions and millions of dollars. And there's a great resource out there, that you can go and add in, your loved one's information to find a life insurance policy. I can put it in a link later, but I actually got a hit when I served with the executor of my uncle's estate that there was an old life insurance plan that he had forgotten about or gone unclaimed. So
Yeah.
that, yeah. So property and all those
So
things. Yeah.
property, a list of your property. Who's going to help? Who do you want to make these decisions about your health care
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're living and you can't make them yourself? Okay.
Okay. Yep.
3, who's going to help you make decisions about your property? Who's going to run your operations
Right.
if you're
Right.
living and you can't do it yourself?
Yeah. When the rubber hits the road, who's going to do the stuff?
Yeah. And ultimately, who do you want to get your wealth when you're not here? Okay. And once I have the 5th step, either document your wishes with beneficiaries,
Mm-hmm.
transfer on death, pay on death,
Right.
or a will and a trust, some sort of estate planning documents. I'm not going to put, just make sure your wishes are documented.
Yes. Yeah. I
Those are the
love
5
that.
things. I mean,
Okay.
it's really, it might seem very easy, but a lot of times it's people have to sit down and think about it. And they
Yes.
also have to get to the point where they're able to have
Yeah.
a discussion with themselves about,
Yeah.
these kind of
Yes.
weighty questions, which for you, Rachel, and myself and my colleagues and a lot of lawyers might be more, clinical,
Right.
not because we're
Yeah.
not sensitive to them, but more because we see people and try to help people on their
Absolutely. Yeah.
journeys. But
Yeah.
those are the 5 things.
Okay. I love that. Those are great. Those are very actionable steps. It's very digestible, but it's also something, like you said, that you don't have to do in just one day. Maybe set a
Right.
timer and work on it for 20 or 30 minutes a week or a day or what have you. And just slowly, like, just work on it, think through, because you may change your mind.
Right.
Um, but if you just sit down and like, okay, I've got to work through this list. I'm not going to do it all today because it's overwhelming. It's depressing.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
I'll and take breaks
Just,
when needed,
yeah,
but
chunk it.
just
Take
chunk
bit
it.
by bit.
I love it. I love it. That
I mean,
those are
that's what we tell people when after they've signed a trust. Now, listen, you
mhm,
don't have to run out tomorrow and do all of this titling. Let's start with it first. Make sure your beneficiaries are, you've got your IRA, 401k, SEP, IRA, whatever. Get your
right.
beneficiaries named. Okay, with that life insurance, let's get the trust as the 100% primary beneficiary on that life insurance. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Week 1,
Yeah.
week 2, okay, you got a brokerage account. What are we going to do with that? What do we need to get to,
Yeah.
the custodian? And
Yeah.
then, we try to take care of real estate if people are going to do real estate with deeds kind of early on, because, we can get the deeds drafted and signed. And then there's, depending on where you live, your state and your county, and maybe even your municipality, there might be, things that have to be done to get that before the deed can actually be recorded.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you kind of you can just chunk it, take it bit by
Chunk
bit.
it. I
The
love it.
important thing is that you're working through the 5 things and trying to
Yeah.
give some forethought to it.
Yeah. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your
Exactly.
time and just like you said, chunk it. Um, well, Corinne, if someone you're licensed to practice in Illinois
In Illinois, yes.
and Wisconsin, or did I dream that?
No,
No.
we're not licensed in
Okay.
Wisconsin.
Okay. So if someone in the Illinois or Chicago area wants, or anywhere, I mean, but ideally you need to find an estate planning attorney in your state, someone who knows all the laws, all the things um, applicable to your state. But if someone wants to reach out to you in your area, how do they get in touch with you and learn more?
Sure. So this is the Instagram handle, Estates Made Easy, IL. You
Right?
can find us online at www.walknerlawfirm.com. I'm
Okay.
on the law firm is on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Corinne Heggie.
And like you said, you are very generous with your time. You will speak with someone, give them a 30 or an hour long consultation, and just talk through their needs, their situation, their wishes. And I would encourage anybody in your area to reach out and just have a discussion.
Agreed. I mean, we're trying to evangelize people about know what property you have and how to protect it.
Evangelize, I love that. We're evangelizing estate planning. I love it. And I loved how you said that this is part of your wellness plan. Estate
Yes,
planning is wellness planning. So I
exactly.
love that. That is such a great analogy. And Corinne, I'm just so glad that you and I have connected, and I'm so glad to have you as one of my experts in my pocket and expand my reach in the US. And like I said, I'm just so appreciative for your time and your expertise. You've been amazing.
Well, I feel the same way about you, Rachel. Thanks for making this happen. And I look
Yeah,
forward to staying connected and seeing how we can help each other and our
me too.
clients.
We're gonna evangelize estate planning. I can feel it. It's gonna happen. So
One day at a time.
all right, Corinne, you take care. Everybody reach out to Corinne, follow her on Insta, connect on LinkedIn, and just take it one day at a time and chunk that estate planning work, and you'll get there eventually.
Agreed. Thanks, Rachel. Thank you,
Thanks, Corinne.
everyone.
Talking to you soon. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.